Okay, so welcome to another interview for the FOSDEM speakers. I'm here with Peter Eisentraut, one of the PostgreSQL developers and also part of the core team of PostgreSQL. So not just any person to be here for the interview. And he's going to speak in FOSDEM in the Postgres dev room, but not only there, also in other uh, tracks too of FOSDEM. So let's go with the question. So Peter, can you tell me what excites you more about PostgreSQL?
Yeah, hi everyone, first of all. What excites me about Postgres? I think it's just fun to work on, right? I don't know really what the most specific thing about it is. I got into it and it's a fun community. You learn, you can play with computers, and it just matches my interest, right? And some people like to work with computer graphics or design games or do different things. I somehow got stuck in databases, and I turned out I like it, and I'm apparently quite good at it. And I think one of the other major things is that people like to use it. Apparently, it's quite popular, and you get good feedback, and people appreciate it, and so that also makes you stick around, I think.
And it keeps on growing. I think that's also motivating. The fact that people not just use it a lot, but you see more and more people using it. I think that's also quite a good thing about the
Right,
community.
right, yeah. I mean that certainly helps, to stick around for the long run. That if you see your sort of contributions and other contributions sort of make the project grow every year.
Mm. What do you think are the features of Postgres that are kind of like the more interesting or the ones that you like the most?
Well, I think the most interesting, well, there's lots of interesting things again, depending on your interest, right? It's even inside sort of a database engine, there some people like to work on performance, some people like to work on interfaces, some people like to work on the code testing and things like that. So I think ultimately what people want to use is basic database stuff, right? Transactions, SQL, get data in, get data out, security, backups, that kind of thing is always important, right? And that work is never done. But then of course also in Postgres, we like to sort of make it an extensible platform for people to do their own thing on. So different users can take the system in different ways, and that also makes it interesting and exciting. So
Yeah,
uh,
definitely. Extensions, good. Peter, so you've been for a long time in the Postgres community, contributing and everything. Do you remember what was your first contribution to Postgres?
yeah, I think I certainly the first sort of significant one beyond the patch. I do remember that very exactly. The first thing I worked on was in PSQL, the tab completion. I do remember, using that as a user at the time, just using Postgres and PSQL, and I kept sort of, as you do, keep pressing the tab to try to complete. And at the time, so it wouldn't do anything sensible, because I think it had sort of the default tab completion it inherits from Bash, so it would also always like complete file names, and that never worked. So I just one day I just said, okay, I'm going to figure this out. Dug into the source code and implemented tab completion in PSQL, and it's still used today. It was rewritten a little bit to be quite a bit better, but so the basic ideas I put in place were still there. So that was sort of
Nice.
the scratch your own itch idea that sometimes people talk about. That was definitely something like that.
Well, I give training, and one of the things that I tell the people is like, if you don't know, you just use tab completion, and it's going to show you what you have to do, and it's
Yeah,
I'll give you
that's
all the options.
that's how
It's
everybody
really good,
uses it. Yeah,
very
yeah,
useful, not just for avoiding typing, but also for discovering things. Like, what was after this, and then you can get all the
yeah,
options.
yeah.
Good, awesome. So to make contributions, you need to have a good environment as a developer and everything. And your talk is going to be about how is the environment of a Postgres developer and everything. So
Yeah.
your environment right now, has it changed much from the point of view that you started working with Postgres? What are the things that you have changed the most?
I think a lot of the basics are very much still the same. It's still like configure, make install, make check.
Mhm.
That's some of that will probably, never change in a way. I guess the biggest, the most significant change was the introduction of Git for source control. That was definitely a big change.
Mhm.
Not only obviously it's a change in the tool you use, but it gives you much more like options of what you can do that you wouldn't even consider possible before, like some things like bisecting to find issues, and when they were first introduced, that wasn't even reasonably possible before. So
Right.
in a way, as I think as the it's not so much that the environment changes, but there are more demands placed on it because everything gets so much more efficient, and then that also more is asked of you as a developer, that you need to you need to be able to do Git bisecting, you need to be able to do static analysis and things like that that were not so possible. So I think it's more like refinement and more demands are placed on it, but the basics are still the same.
Yeah. And you are still using the same text editor since the beginning?
I did. I think I did start out with probably was Nano, or was it still Pico back then? But
Right.
once I got into Postgres a little bit more, I changed to Emacs pretty quickly to be able to do more things.
Right. So what are you mostly involved now in Postgres development? Which is your area of focus, or your team that works with you?
Yeah, basic, Postgres core feature development. There are a bunch of different things I personally have in the pipeline. The team I work with has in the pipeline. There's, I guess, sort of for my personal interests, I mostly work sort of in SQL commands, query language features. I guess some sort of security and deployment level things. But there's certainly other work going on sort of replication and so backups and those kind of things that I also try to support.
Right. So from the point of view of a developer of Postgres, for the people who wants to contribute to Postgres but don't have either the expertise or the means to contribute with code, what are the helps that can be brought by the people from the community, like testing or documentation? What are things that you guys need more help on? That is not code contribution, but contribution to the software or to the community.
Yeah, I certainly those things you mentioned are possibilities if people want to do that. Right, testing is always good. Documentation is good. If you also need some skills for that, but if different people have different skills, that's great. Some people, certainly we have valuable contributors in our community that maybe don't hardly ever write like new features, but they're really good at finding bugs. Maybe they don't even need to fix the bugs, but they can show other people where they are, or write sort of test cases, or interact with bug reporters.
What is a good bug report, would you say?
What is a good bug report?
What does it have to have a bug report?
Well, I don't necessarily want to make people write like huge bug reports, but I think being able to interact with, once a developer sort of interacts with you, being able to help them find, different people have different skills. Again, you can sometimes people can send, have a crash and send a backtrace. That's great.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes people just have a test case that crashes, but they don't know anything about sort of the lower level things. So,
but it's also valid to have either the test or to have the backtrace.
Yeah, but reproducible bugs are of course good, because then someone can basically just figure it out themselves. The worst kind of problems are the non-reproducible bug reports with sort of concurrency issues and things like that. That's really hard. So if you can be really helpful there if you try to engage with a developer and sort of work with them and figure that out over maybe a lengthier email thread. So that would definitely be helpful.
Nice.
I do want to mention one thing in terms of contributing or sort of non-code contributing. I think feedback in general is good, especially also positive feedback, right?
Right.
We do get bug reports are essentially negative feedbacks, right? It's like this doesn't work, or this is confusing, right? Or things like that. But if you just say, I really like this, or this worked really well, or this new release is making everything faster, or we really appreciated this new feature, we don't hear it that much. So if that's just also good.
Sorry, the best way to provide the feedback: Twitter, chats.
Yeah, just
email.
I guess writing. People don't just write sort of random emails to the mailing list and say I like this. That's fine, probably. Maybe that's a little bit not what people generally do, but just writing stuff on Twitter or on media and blog posts like that, where
Yeah.
just sort of report experiences. That's definitely useful.
Cool. Okay. Well, that's a good way to promote to people to give more feedback about how they use and what they like about Postgres. Okay. Good. Excellent. Last word, Peter. What people need to know before joining your, or why should people go and see your talk at the Postgres Dev Room?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a list of interesting things, I think, right? If you want to be a developer, there's some ideas in there. If you don't want to be a developer, you can also learn in general how to, it doesn't have to be only about Postgres. If you want to learn a little bit more about how to use a command line or how to use Git or things like that, it's just I think everybody can take 1 or 2 tips away from that.
Excellent. Yeah, looking forward to that. I registered myself to be host because I really want to see this talk. So to everybody attending FOSDEM, go and see Peter. So Peter, thank you very much.
Thank you.